Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we are diving into one of the most fascinating periods in history, the Renaissance. But we are not just talking about the art, science, or incredible thinkers of the time. Instead, we're going to explore why and how the ancient Greeks and Romans played such a huge role in shaping this era. How did lost knowledge from over 1,000 years ago spark an intellectual and cultural revolution? Let's find out. The Renaissance, which means rebirth, was all about rediscovery. After centuries of the Middle Ages, Europe began to look back to the classical world, specifically ancient Greece and Rome. But why? Well, the Greeks and Romans were seen as the pinnacle of human achievement. Their philosophies, art, architecture, and governance were considered timeless models of excellence. Think about it. The Greeks gave us democracy, groundbreaking philosophy with thinkers like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, and revolutionary advancements in mathematics and science. Did you know that Euclid's geometry and Pythagoras' mathematical theories were still being studied in Renaissance schools? The Romans, on the other hand, mastered engineering, law, and governance. Their innovations like concrete construction, aqueducts, and urban planning were far ahead of their time. The Renaissance saw a revival of Roman legal principles, influencing modern law codes across Europe. For Renaissance thinkers, these civilizations represented a golden age of human potential, one they wanted to revive and build upon. So how did the Renaissance reconnect with these ancient ideas? It all started with the fall of Constantinople in 1453. When the Ottoman Empire took over, many Greek scholars fled to Italy, bringing with them ancient texts that had been lost to Western Europe for centuries. These included works by Plato, Aristotle, and Ptolemy, books that had been preserved and expanded upon by Islamic scholars in the medieval period. At the same time, wealthy patrons like the Medici family in Florence began funding artists and scholars to study these works. This created a cultural explosion. Suddenly, everyone wanted to learn Greek and Latin to read these texts in their original languages. Universities expanded, and humanism, a focus on human potential and achievement, became the dominant intellectual movement. One of the biggest game changers, the printing press. Invented by Johannes Gutenberg in the mid-15th century, it made these ancient texts more accessible than ever before. Books were no longer locked away in monasteries. They could now spread across Europe, fueling the Renaissance revolution. Now let's talk about art. Renaissance artists were obsessed with the Greeks and Romans. They studied ancient sculptures like the Laocoon and the Venus de Milo to understand anatomy and proportion. This led to the realistic, lifelike figures we see in works by Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci. But it wasn't just about technique. The themes of Renaissance art were deeply influenced by classical mythology and philosophy. For example, Botticelli's The Birth of Venus is a direct nod to ancient Greek mythology, depicting the goddess Venus rising from the sea, just as described in Hesiod's Theogony over 2,000 years earlier. Even Renaissance architecture took inspiration from the Romans. Filippo Brunelleschi, one of the greatest architects of the time, studied the Pantheon in Rome to perfect the engineering of domes, leading to his masterpiece, the Dome of the Florence Cathedral. Columns, symmetry, and classical proportions all made a comeback, shaping the skylines of Renaissance cities. The influence didn't stop at art. In science and philosophy, Renaissance thinkers looked to the Greeks for inspiration. Aristotle's emphasis on observation and logic laid the groundwork for the scientific method, a concept that thinkers like Galileo and Copernicus expanded upon. Speaking of Copernicus, his heliocentric model of the solar system, which placed the sun rather than the Earth at the center, was directly influenced by ancient Greek astronomers like Aristarchus of Samos, who had proposed a similar idea nearly 18 centuries earlier. Meanwhile, Plato's ideas about ideal forms and the pursuit of knowledge influenced philosophers like Marsilio Ficino, who helped revive Neoplatonism, a fusion of Christian theology with Platonic philosophy. This movement shaped Renaissance humanism and encouraged a new way of thinking about humanity's place in the universe. Even in politics, the Roman Republic served as a model for governance. Thinkers like Machiavelli studied Roman history extensively, using it to write The Prince, a book that examined power, leadership, and realpolitik through a Roman lens. By the end of the Renaissance, the influence of the Greeks and Romans was everywhere. Their ideas had sparked a revolution in art, science, and thought that shaped the modern world. But more than that, the Renaissance showed us the power of looking to the past to inspire the future. Even today, we see the echoes of ancient Greece and Rome all around us. Our democracy? Greek-inspired. Our legal systems? Roman-influenced. Even our scientific methods and artistic principles trace back to these civilizations. The Renaissance wasn't just about reviving the past, it was about building on it, pushing human achievement to new heights. And in doing so, it laid the foundation for the modern world as we know it. So, there you have it, the incredible story of how the Greeks and Romans influenced the Renaissance. If you enjoyed this video, do not forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more deep dives into history. Let me know in the comments, which ancient civilization do you think had the biggest impact on the world? Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.